Hi, I'm Celeste, the director of Every Step of the Way.
And I'm Jess, and I work alongside Celeste.
So today we're topic of conversation. We're going to talk about the doom and gloom in the marketplace and all the press recently around markets going to crash, etc., and really sort of give you our thoughts on what's happening within the general market. So the press sometimes, we see certain cycles every year of property prices and sales obviously drop in certain times of the year, and you have your certain market trends of when the market's busiest, etc. So naturally, just before Christmas, as you come to the tail end of the year, the market generally does start to slow down. And then you have another flurry sort of into the new year of new instructions and the new year property market, and then the spring market. And then you have the summer holidays where everybody sort of takes time off and goes away with their family, where things tend to quieten down a little bit over that 6-week period. And then you have another sort of flurry again, sort of tail end of the summer holidays just before Christmas. Yeah. So the best time to sell, actually, we'll talk about this, best time to sell is New Year, sort of March right through to sort of September. That tends to be the busiest times of year. But I've been in this industry 23 years, and every year, around about end of the year, what do you hear? The media saying, oh, property market's dying and things have slowed down, etc. You hear the same old thing every single year. And then what happens? We come into the new year, oh, property market sort of seems to be stabilising and things are picking up because that's the natural trends of the market. Of course, last year we did see a difference, didn't we, in what was happening with interest rates rising, etc.
There is also, though, a lot of scaremongering within the media, what you get on the news, and that it's just a lot of scaremongering. Yeah, they did increase, by quite a bit.
Yeah.
But
I think that there's always that sort of uncertainty, isn't there, when we have been on such low interest rates for so long. And let's be realistic, we've been waiting, or I've been waiting certainly, for interest rates to increase since Brexit. We had Brexit, we've had COVID, we've now got this situation where obviously the economy, and there's always something. So we've been waiting for this day for a very long time for interest rates to rise. So I don't think it should be coming, it doesn't seem to be coming as a surprise to people. As I said, we have been waiting for this day for a long time, and we are in a position now where obviously that is happening. So tail end of last year, we saw interest rates obviously starting to rise, and we did feel an impact, didn't we, tail end of last year? There was a lot of uncertainty, wasn't there, with people looking to move, and the conversations that we were having with people.
Had quite a few people wanting to wait until the new year,
sitting on the fence.
Changes.
But there was also the other extreme, wasn't there, where we had suddenly we had a flurry of rush buying going on.
Yeah.
So
complete opposite, wasn't it?
Yeah. So we had the people sitting on the fence waiting to see what was going to happen, and then we had the other lot of people that had mortgage rates secured,
wanting to buy to get it all through with their fixed rate.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we had all this rush buying suddenly of people saying, I've got to be in by X time because my mortgage offer is going to run out and I'm never going to get that rate again. So we had this mad sort of panic of people buying tail end of last year, trying to get in and having to get vendors to vacate the properties to accommodate them to get in to take advantages of the mortgage rates that they've got. Yeah, and the mortgage lenders were sort of also, usually what tends to happen is if you've got a mortgage offer, for example, your mortgage offer would last typically up to 6 months. And sometimes with sales progression, when properties are going through, you might go over the 6 months for whatever reason, chain complications or whatever, and you can go back to your mortgage lender and ask for an extension, which is quite typical. Typically, they will extend your mortgage. But what we saw last year was actually, because of interest rates rising, mortgage lenders were stopping, weren't they, doing the extensions as well. Not all of them, but some of them were. So there was mad sort of panic in, we've got to get to that date, and there's no flexibility type scenarios, weren't we? So we saw that. But personally, I think all this scaremongering, as you say, is a load of nonsense. I've been in this position so many times over my career where, the property market's going to crash, this is going to happen, that's going to happen. And realistically, you know, yes, sometimes we have seen property prices come down a bit, but quite often what happens in this sort of scenario is things just start to sort of stabilise.
It starts to level out.
Starts to level out a little bit. So we spoke to our mortgage ladies, didn't we, yesterday?
Yeah.
There's quite a lot of positivity at the moment with mortgage rates, in that we're seeing them at 4.39%, I think it was, and some mortgage lenders have reduced their rates by 0.6%, and they've actually even extended for higher borrowing the loan-to-value ratios as well. So that's all positive stuff. And actually, when you look at mortgage rates at 4.39%, that is, in my opinion, that is still low. I know we've been used to these ridiculously low interest rates, but 4.39% is not a high rate. I mean, as I say, I've been doing this job 23 years. Going back, you know, in my younger days, etc., I was paying rates when I was in my 20s, like you, Jess, like 6%, etc. That was still low.
I think it's because people are so used to it being low that when it does go up a little bit, it's completely out of the norm, isn't it? So.
I mean, none of us know really what's going to happen. We can all give our sort of views and our predictions of how we feel, but I think also it's a matter of our experience.
Well, exactly. You've been in this, you know, industry for a long time, so you've seen it go up and down, level out, up and down. So you can kind of gauge what it's going to be like.
Exactly.
You know?
And the only thing that we can obviously relay to people, isn't it, is what we're experiencing on a daily basis. And I mean, obviously, you're speaking to people daily, aren't you? You know, you're hitting the phones daily. And what's your sort of, you know, what are you finding the feedback's being coming from applicants that you're speaking to at the moment, etc., buyers?
Get some people who are obviously still a little bit nervous, you know, so we'll try and see if they want to maybe go with our mortgage advisors or something, you know, because it's always easier just to keep it under one roof anyway. But then they're saying they're not going to get accepted, or they don't want to try because they're scared about not getting accepted, you know. So it is a bit up and down, but overall, you know, it's just one of the there's still a lot going on. We're still selling properties through mortgages and everything, so
and people are out actively viewing. I think that there definitely seems to be confidence in the market, isn't there? Still, there's, you know, that's encouraging. It doesn't seem to be. Tail end of last year, we did find that there was a lot of people saying that they were sitting on the fence and want to see what's happening. But actually, we've gone into January, haven't we, with quite a lot of new instructions, lots more instructions coming on. And we are getting activity on those properties, you know, and you're getting viewings. You've got, you know, we came back. We had our first Saturday, didn't we? Just gone since the new year, and both of us were literally back to back, weren't we? With buyers ready and able to buy, not wasting our time, and we were out viewing properties on Saturday and getting offers in. So I don't think it's as bad as what the media portray, and it actually really frustrates me when I look at the media and I watch the news and it's all doom and gloom and this, that and the other, and I think it's not actually like that. And I know there has to be a certain amount of scaremongering, and of course I'm not being unrealistic. You know, interest rates are going up. There is, you know, those conversations that
understand it.
But when you're working in it on a daily basis and you're not seeing it as bad as it's being portrayed out there, you know, it's getting that message across, isn't it? That actually don't be frightened, because mortgage lenders are still lending, interest rates are stabilising.
It's still going through.
Yeah.
Everything's still, you know.
Exactly. And, you know, they will make changes, I think, over the year. You know, we've obviously got the budget. Mortgage lenders are obviously opening up, and, you know, they've just done, some lenders have been reducing their rates by 0.6%, as we were told the other day. So they often will put things in place to keep the market stabilised and keep pushing things along. And we are coming into, obviously, our busiest time of year as well, which is good. So doom and gloom in the market. At the moment, we're not really seeing it. The only other thing that I would say is, from my experience, and of course for the areas that we cover, is certain parts of the country will feel the impact worse than other parts. So we're quite fortunate in where we are based in the south of England. We're in quite affluent areas. In the past, when I've been in situations like this, and obviously, you know, the markets that in tougher markets, if you like, we don't tend to feel the impact as much as maybe some other parts of the country will. So again, when the statistics are done every year, you know, or over time, it's quite often that it's not the same everywhere. You know, some areas will feel it different to others.
It's not as bad as everyone says it is. Obviously, like I said a minute ago, I do understand that some people are on the fence, you know, that obviously, and it can be, because it's not, at the end of the day, it is their own money as well, you know, that the interest rates are going up on. So it is understandable, but
you have to have that air of caution, don't you?
Yeah.
I mean, you know, if you're buying a property now, the other thing that I often say to clients is, at the end of the day, it's your home.
Exactly.
You know, if you're buying it as your home, you're going to be there potentially 10, 15 years, whatever it may be. So if we see a slight downturn in the market and property prices do come down a little bit, I've experienced it in my time. You know, when I bought, going back a number of years ago, we went through a situation where the prices came down a little bit, and then they ended up coming back. Yeah. I mean, we were in negative equity at one point, and then they end up coming back. So you have to look at it as a long-term investment. If you're buying your home, yes, okay, there's this uncertainty in the market that we might see house prices coming down a tad or what have you. But, you know, you've got to look at it as the long game.
At the end of the day as well, you're buying it because you want it, because you want to live in it, because you want it to be your home, you know.
And there's always money in bricks and mortar.
I think with my generation, so obviously I'm in my 20s, I think we've been so used to having low interest rates that because they've increased by, you know, and I understand that for some people it might not be that much, but because they've increased for us, this is kind of like the first hit we've had, you know, being in it, just how it's been for a while.
Yeah. So you're, I suppose, only used to really seeing them, aren't you, at the sort of levels that we've had, and I can quite appreciate that. It's, you know, it's quite very daunting for potentially first-time buyers when you've seen all these very low rates and then suddenly it going up to the sort of the 4s and the 5, you know, potentially the 5%, etc. And you're absolutely right. But obviously, for my generation, this is, you know, these interest rates are so low. We've never seen it this low, and you know, they went down to like, I think something like 0.25% above the base rate at one point years ago, and so they've always kept them very, very low. So going up to sort of the 4% in my generation, that's not a lot. Even at 6%, really, you know, that's what I've been used to in my experience, 6 and 7%, you know, going back to when I was in my 20s. So I can imagine it's very daunting for people of your generation as well, obviously, you know, because all you're seeing is the scaremongering on the news and interest rate hikes and how it's going to be very expensive, etc. But something else, when, I mean, obviously I'm not a financial advisor, so I can't give advice. You know, we get the information from our financial ladies that we speak to and, you know, work in the market every day. And it was a conversation that came up between us and mortgage lending, when you're, so say for example, you were going to get a mortgage and you're being quoted at the 4.39 or % or whatever it is, mortgage lenders are actually qualifying you up to being able to, for your affordability, if the interest rates were to go to 8%. So you've already been, or a lot of these first-time buyers, etc., that have already got their mortgages that are now, you know, seeing this increase, have already been financially qualified by the banks for interest on the basis that interest rates, their affordability to go up to, I think it was 8%, something like that. So yes, they might have gone out and got the nice car and all the other bits that go with it, but I think it's going to be a matter of people are having to sort of tighten their belts a little bit, and obviously, you know, preparing for those.
I think you've got to always expect the unexpected. Yes, you know, exactly. It's always changing. Yeah. Everything's always changing. Yeah. There's nothing that stays the same.
And you know, it's having to pull the reins in a little bit, and maybe not. You know, we've been very used to being able to go out and have the extra spending and having the luxuries and things like that, and it's actually pulling your belt in a little bit or finding other ways, isn't it, to bridge that gap. So yeah. So another thing that we were talking about this week, weren't we, is actually how the property industry needs to change. We had an experience, didn't we, pre-Christmas, and this was a bit of an eye-opener for you because obviously you've not been in the industry that long, and I've always been harping on to you saying we've got to make sure deals are secure and making sure that we have, you know, when we put a sale together that they're financially qualified, we know they can do what they say they're going to do. But one of the big things is here in the UK, and one of the things that frustrates all of us estate agents is until you get exchanged, anything can happen, as in a sale can fall through until you get that exchange of contracts. Talk us through what happened pre-Christmas.
So,
Jess.
just before Christmas, we had, I think it was a chain of 7.
Yeah. Which is quite a big chain, actually.
Yeah.
However, I'll just point on that. Four of those properties within that chain of 7 were with one estate agent. So I'm just going to diverse a little bit here because we're going to talk about that. But when you get involved in chains, for example, if you've got a chain of 7 people, that's 7 people that you've got to rely on to get that sale through. So that is them getting a mortgage, surveys, if anything was to happen on surveys. So typically, if we were selling a house and we looked at a chain of 7, straight away we're, oh, that might not go through. However, on this situation, 4 of those properties were with one agent, and actually there was only 3 agents involved in the whole chain. So there was us there was one agent at the top, there was us at the top, and then there was the agent below with the 4. Yep. And the agent below with the 4 was actually, been in the industry a long time. We do know of them. We know they do their due diligence, and we know that if they put that sale together, it was going to be as watertight as it could be. So we were quite confident that potentially this was going to go through. But what happened?
Fell through.
And why did what actually happened?
Last point. So it was just an amount of communication, really, wasn't it? Because I didn't deal with it. You dealt with it, and I would hear you constantly on the phone with every single one. All the solicitors, all the estate agents, the vendors, the buyers. You were talking to everyone, trying to get this through. And I think it was, wasn't it, to the point of exchange. We were on the day, ready to exchange. And then one person just pulled out.
Yeah, changed their mind.
Changed their mind. Made the whole
So,
thing drop.
So what happened on this particular sale, for example, is it was just pre-Christmas, and we were due to exchange pre-Christmas with completion then for January. And pre-Christmas is quite a busy time for solicitors because they have got everybody trying to get moved pre-Christmas. So the solicitors get quite busy, and you've got to keep on their tails to make things happen. So there was myself and the other 2 agents really, really pushing to get this through. And unfortunately, one of the solicitors within the bottom of the chain didn't quite make things work. Yeah. So the exchange didn't happen. So we then had to contact everybody in the chain to say to them, okay, unfortunately we haven't got the exchange pre-Christmas, but please don't worry because everybody is still committed. And what we're going to do is as soon as the solicitors come back after the Christmas holidays, we'll exchange and we will still have that deadline for the completion, which was for end of January. But from my experience in this industry, communication, I'm always saying this, communication is key. You've got to communicate. And the longer a sales transaction goes on, the more time people have to think about things and start to lose the momentum a little bit and start to potentially wobble or change their mind. And unfortunately on this scenario, what we had was we had a 2-week Christmas period where everybody starts to wind down, people start to think about things, and one of those buyers within the chain started to have a change of heart. We came back after the Christmas period and off we went to get the exchange. The solicitor at the bottom released up the chain to get the exchange going, and we got a call from one of the agents to say, I'm really sorry, but one of our buyers has decided that they've had a change of heart. Now, a change of heart. And this is what frustrates me. You get to this point, all those poor people in that chain, 7 of them, emotionally, devastated because they were losing the properties that they wanted to go into, financially out of pocket because they've already spent money on solicitors, etc. Us estate agents, all that work that we put in, like you quite rightly said, the amount of calls I've made, my time, etc. We don't get paid until we complete. So all my time that I've spent on that and for free. Purely for the fact that somebody just changed their mind.
It's a long process anyway, just getting the sale through, and you have to get all the solicitors in order, you have to get all the mortgage advisors, the estate agents, the buyers, the vendors. It takes such a long time anyway. And the fact that, if one solicitor or one mortgage advisor or one agent or something isn't on board, isn't communicating, can just mess up
The whole thing.
whole thing.
Yeah. And my frustration was if that solicitor at the bottom didn't leave at 12 o'clock on that day and got the exchange through when we were meant to get it through, we wouldn't have been left open all over Christmas for somebody then to have a little wobble and change their mind and the whole thing collapse coming into the new year. So one of my frustrations, and this will be across the board for lots of other estate agents and lots of buyers and sellers alike, is that until you get to that point of exchange, anything can happen. And
You were saying it needs to be, was it American?
and America and other European countries, and I've been beating this drum for years,
Yeah.
that, you know, for example, in America, if you went and offered on the property in the States, on point of offer, you financially commit and money goes into escrow. It's the same in Scotland. The law is different. If you offer on a property in Scotland, you are committed on point of offer. You know, it's too airy-fairy, I think, here in the UK, and that, you know, people can just come out and offer and a few weeks down the line just change their minds or something happen, etc. There's no commitment, you know, and I think our industry needs to change so much in that you get commitment on point of offer. If somebody's going out to offer on a property, it's like that, you know, that handshake. If you agree a deal, you agree a deal. It's just left too open, and unfortunately, you know, you do get the odd people out there that can be a little bit flaky, if you like. I hate that word, but, you know, can be a little bit like that in that, you know, they're left open for things not to happen. And I just think it's such, you know, like I say, from our perspective as estate agents, you know, time and effort that we put into not just marketing, the viewings, the negotiations and everything, we don't see our results until maybe sort of 3 months down the line when we get paid on point of completion. You know, everybody else, you know, our services are used as sort of a free service, if you like, which again is one of my frustrations, in that, you know, we're looked at as a free service.
Well, we had someone before where they've gone into this new build and they've wanted this and that done, you know, the walls have been painted, there's been extra features added to the property, you know, and time and money has been put into that, and suddenly they've just pulled out.
Yeah.
They don't want it anymore.
I know, they've had a change of heart or what have you. Yeah, I know exactly the property that you're talking about.
We understand, obviously, people have situations that they go through where they might have to pull out, you know, but it's just for when it's just because it's taking too long or because something just doesn't feel right, you know, and it's like, if you have a real circumstance, then that's completely understandable, you know, there's nothing you can do. Everyone has their own life, you know, you can't control anyone at all, but it's just
if you commit on something, you commit,
Yeah,
don't you?
yeah.
So if you were going to go out and buy a car, for example, and you went to a car sales place and you said you saw a car on the forecourt that you wanted to buy, they would take a deposit off you to secure that car, and that would be, you know, you're going to lose that money if you don't follow through with it. Why does that not happen in property? Okay, we've got these auction companies that have come out now saying that they will, you know, contracts are put in place that on point of offer, you know, that you pay X amount and that covers the fee. That is a system that certain companies have put in place, but that should be across the board in estate agency all round. That when you commit on point of offer, you pay X amount down on account to secure that property that goes into, you know, a reserve account or escrow or whatever. Why isn't that a system across the board in that every single estate agent in the UK works like that? Because it's not fair. It's not fair on people otherwise. You know,
I think sometimes it's not even the vendors or buyers, you know. I mean, yeah, we understand that obviously it is your choice at the end of the day, and you are the ones who decide to pull out. But it's sometimes the solicitors or, you know, it's the other estate agents and things, because they're taking too long, because they're not communicating, because there's no relationships built with anyone. Of course, the vendors and buyers are going to change their minds sometimes, you know.
This gets me on to another conversation, actually, in that it's so crucial when putting a sale together, because you quite rightly just said solicitors. You know, solicitors are such a key role into making things happen. And if you've got a solicitor in a chain or on a sale that doesn't communicate, that doesn't respond, that, you know, is slacking in certain areas, that can have an impact on everybody, because it's so stressful. It doesn't need to be that way. If you've got good solicitors working on the case that are communicating, that are doing their job, that are, and getting things over the line, it should be a seamless process. But when you've got people within a chain not doing their jobs correctly, and solicitors sort of, are a real key fact. If you're buying a property, I can't emphasise it enough that you use a good local solicitor that knows the area, rather than an internet solicitor that might be based up north that doesn't know the area that you're buying in. It is really crucial. But the other thing also is solicitors as well, and we use there's some fantastic solicitors out there. They also, one of the things that really frustrates me as estate agents is we quite often, when we're doing sales progression, chasing a sale through, is do a lot of the legwork to help the solicitors get things over the line. Now, if that sale falls through, the solicitor still gets paid. We don't. And I think that is so unfair in the industry as well, in that, we do a lot of work for getting things over the line, etc., and we do help out with the solicitors.
It's just no promise, is there? It's just no handshakes. I mean, you know what I mean by that, but.
So I think the property industry definitely needs to change in the UK. There needs to be more emphasis around securing, when you secure a property on offer, you're committed.
That's the thing. We don't want to waste their time just as much as we don't want to waste our time,
I mean, we can do as much as we can do with putting a sale together and making sure our due diligence is done with regards to, the mortgage inquiring and putting them together with good solicitors and communication and chasing it regularly. I mean, there's so many estate agents out there that, and I'm not going to name any specifically, but will literally just put a sale together and not even check the financial situation and not do their due diligence and literally just throw a sale together and hope for the best. And that is the sales progression part. Actually is probably, of course, the beginning part of the transaction and doing the viewings, etc., but the sales progression part is such a crucial point, in that you've got to be all over that to get it to where you need to be, which is obviously the end result, which is getting a sale. I was on Twitter the other day and we were having a conversation about this morning, and one of the things that really, really gets my goat is that estate agents are so badly looked upon. That really, really gets my goat. And I was looking at some comments on, somebody put something up on Twitter, and there was comments on there, I hate estate agents, they're the lowest of the low, they're this, they're that, and blah, blah, blah. And I was looking at these comments and I just thought, do you know what? That is so unfair for what we actually do. And there is this stereotypic, if you like, of views of estate agents and how we're looked upon, I think, as, that typical shiny shoe, arrogant sort of people. And it's not like that at all, and it's changed.
Not our estate agency anyway.
No, I'm sure there are some estate agents out there that just follow that typical stereotype of what people think, but I just think it's so unfair in that what we actually do and how we're looked upon. I mean, if you look at, for example, and I know I talk about America a lot, and obviously that is a little bit because of my American influence, but if you look at realtors in America, for example, they're looked highly upon, aren't they? We're looked so down upon, as if, like, literally somebody said on this Twitter, but the scum of my shoe or something like that. And I was like, that is just so unfair.
To help you, whether we want to help. That's our job, is to help you find that one home that you want to be in. I think that there's not enough understanding actually to what goes on behind the scenes in a estate agency, and there's good people out there that have been in the industry for a long time that do their job well, and you've got this sort of mentality of people that look down upon us when, one, we're human beings, and two, actually, some of us are very professional in what we do, and, work extremely hard at what we do, and to get looked upon like that is just really, really upsetting. But I do think, and obviously we talked about this at one point, a couple of points, in that the industry does need to be more regulated.
You know, anybody pretty much can become a estate agent, and maybe that is where this whole situation, where you probably got some unprofessional estate agents out there, crooks or whatever they might be, that have given us a bad name in the fact that, you know, the industry isn't properly regulated. Now, there are exams and things
Coming into place.
place, and there are talks that they were aiming for 2023, that it is going to be mandatory that you're going to need to be at a certain level of qualification. Now, that is something that we are enrolling you on soon, aren't we? Into making sure we're ahead of the game, so you've got your qualification. Yeah, I'm already there. Rather than the mad rush, obviously, when they do bring this into play, that everybody is suddenly going to be racing to get qualified and what have you. And I think that in some ways, probably in, you know, going back to America, for example, you know, they're all licensed. So if you were going to become a realtor, you have to go through your realtor's license, and it's not easy. There's lots of areas that you've got to learn, and there's a lot of people that don't pass it. You know, my cousin is a realtor in America, for example. My mum used to be a realtor in America, and I know when my cousin and my mum were doing their realtor's license, you know, they went in for their exams. They didn't pass first time. They had to go back, and there's a lot of work in order to become a realtor, and that's potentially probably why they are looked up upon, because they know that they've worked hard to get to where they need to be. Whereas here in the UK, there are agents out there that pretty much you can just become an estate agent. So I do think that's really, really positive in moving. It is key, and I think that you know, there are a lot of people out there that maybe don't do the job well, and that might be one of the reasons.
Exactly. I'm not a fan of exams.
No.
You know, I don't really like that kind of stuff. That's why I'm an estate agent. That's why I love getting up, doing things. You know, it's all different. Every day is different. That's why I love it. I'm not a fan of exams, but it's key.
Yeah.
You know, I want to be able to, like, people to know that I have got something behind it. I haven't just come from nothing, you know, and just been, like, prancing around and all that, you know. I think you've really hit the nail on the head that people do just look down on people in the UK because there is nothing to back you up on it, but that in America they are looked up at because they have really gone through it, you know.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be good for us, actually. I do think our industry needs to be more regulated in that respect, and obviously the agents that are out there doing the job are qualified to certain levels. And you know, a lot of the time, for example, you know, legislation stuff, you know, it's just pulled literally off the Gov website, thrown in front of you and go learn that, you know, and a lot of it is jargon where, you know, some of these agents won't even understand what's on there. Whereas if you're going through and you're doing the exams and you're getting the qualifications, you know then that the agents that are operating will know their stuff. And hopefully we'll come out of that era of being looked upon as, you know, not an estate agent, you know. So I'm really sort of pro that, and I think that will be good in the long run, definitely.
Honestly, I don't think not everyone, obviously, it's not everyone at all. You know, we meet some really good like vendors and buyers, you know, but just like from seeing how you were with, obviously when we were talking earlier about the chain of 7 we had and how you were communicating with every single person, you were one of the people who was keeping it going through, and that people look down on us like that. It's a shame. Yeah. It is a shame because I don't think they see actually how much we do. You know.
I mean, something we're going to do soon, isn't it? I mean, obviously we're doing these Coffee with Celeste talks, but something that we are going to start doing is the fly on the wall and the behind the scenes of a state agency. So you guys are going to get to see a little bit about what we're going to be, what really does go on behind the scenes, because I think that a lot of people don't see what we do on a day-to-day basis. And you know, you quite rightly said to me this morning, I said, oh, I hated it. I said, I couldn't switch off last night. You know, I didn't get any sleep. And I'm the same. I was working last night, just doing stuff on my phone, etc. 9:30, 10 o'clock, still working. People don't see that. They don't see that we're up at 7 o'clock in the morning, we're working. They don't see that we're working in the evenings. They just think we're there 9 till 5, going out, carry on doing some viewings, and oh, it's lovely. It's not. There is actually that other side of the job which isn't so lovely, and a lot involved with, you know, the day-to-day running of the business, the clients, the whole shebang. You know, there's so much involved, isn't there? Whereas I think that's a little bit of where the general public, if you like, don't see that, that's where this whole
It's just kind of a
stereotypical sort of like estate agent bit comes from, but also, you know, past history as well. There was, you know, certainly obviously in my generation, when I was in my 20s, etc., there was a lot of that sort of, you know, not naming any particular company brands, but there was that stereotypical sort of like shiny shoe, arrogant type, you know, estate agent, where that's all come from. But, you know, like I said, there's a lot of people in the industry that are extremely professional, that have been doing the job for a long time, and I think that stereotype, you know, being put on those types of estate agents is not right, and hopefully that's all going to change in time.
Especially with all these new, you know, exams and laws. Hopefully laws. I don't, you know, you don't know. But all these new qualifications that will be needed, I think that'll be good. I think that'll be really good. I think that's needed.
Yeah, and I think also that's needed is obviously, you know, that when you buy an offer, you commit on offer. When you buy a property, you commit on offer. None of this leaving us wide open.
And then not just the buyer, solicitors, agents, everyone needs to commit. Absolutely. You know, commit your time, communication, I keep saying it, so key, it's so key, so.
Anyway, I think that's wrapped up for us today, but thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed Coffee with Celeste and obviously with Jess. If you've got any comments or anything you want to suggest, then please feel free to drop us a line.